In this video, we're going to go ahead and implement the service layer for our little web application. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create a new package and call that services. And here I'm going to create I'm going to call it a book service. And I'm going to create this as an interface. So typically in a Spring application, you are going to have multiple opportunities for dependency injection. And when you are injecting components, we'll see this coming up in the course, but a best practice is to be writing to an interface. And in this case, we want our book service to implement one method. Again, we're keeping this very simple. I'm showing you a design pattern primarily here. In this case, we want to return back a very simple implementation that's going to return back an iterable of books. We'll just call it find all. And it doesn't need to take any parameters at all. So we're just going to provide that. And now what I want to do is I want to implement that. So I'm going to do option enter. And I'm just going to select implement interface. And I'm just calling that IMPL. And again, in an actual application, I might have more than one implementation of this. Here, I'm following a design pattern to show you a very, very common design pattern with Spring Framework. And now I want to use the stereotype of service. This indicates the context that we are creating a service here. And now I want to get an instance of the book repository. So I'm going to say private final book repository. And we'll create the constructor like so. And our actual implementation here, I'm going to say book repository find all. So again, this is a very, very simple implementation of a service. Typically, you're going to have additional business logic in the service layer. What I'm doing in this video is showing specifically a design pattern that's very common. You'll see this throughout the course where we are creating a service layer. Remember, I'm saying the controller should be simple traffic cops. We'll have a service layer that's going to be working with the business logic to retrieve data from the persistence layer. So we're abstracting any persistence logic from our controllers by placing it into a service. And as you get into more complex applications, you'll see a lot more value. Right now, we are going through a design, just following a common design pattern because I want to show you that at this point in the course. But future lessons, we will be getting into more complex operations here. This is a very simple implementation. So what I've done in this lesson, we created an interface for book service, and then we created an implementation of that book service, and we've annotated it with the service annotation that is a Spring stereotype, saying that this is a service. So what's going to happen is the Spring context, when we start it up, it's going to see this book service implementation being registered as a Spring component. When it creates it, it has a constructor for the book repository. The book repository will get injected by the Spring framework and be available for our use. And now this is a component that we can use. And in the next lesson, we will focus on creating the controller, and the controller is going to get an instance of the book service injected into it for its needs. And we'll show that in the next video.